Post Malone's story isn't about losing fame. It's about surviving it. Not everyone is meant to stay at the top forever. Some people choose to live, and maybe that's the real success. For years, you couldn't escape him on the radio, on the charts, on your playlists. Post Malone wasn't just popular, he was everywhere. Diamond records, Billboard domination, sold out tours, cross-genre hits that blurred hip-hop, pop, rock, and country. And then he slowly disappeared. No massive radio singles, less media buzz, fewer viral moments. So people start asking the question, where is Post Malone? What happened to him? Did he fall off? Or did he walk away? This isn't a story about failure. This is a story about burnout, evolution, and survival. Let's break it all down. The unlisted rise. Before the tattoos. Before the fame. Before the diamond plaques. Post Malone was just Austin Richard Post, a kid from Texas who loved rock music, guitar, and video games. He grew up listening to Nirvana, Metallica, Bob Dylan, and later, hip-hop artists like 50 Cent and Kanye West. He wasn't trying to be a rapper. He just wanted to make music. In 2015, everything changed when he uploaded a song called White Iverson. The record blew up overnight, not because it was flashy, but because it sounded different, melodic, emotional, lazy but confident. Labels rushed in. Republic Records signed him. And within months, Post Malone went from a bedroom artist to the industry's newest obsession. Stardom hits fast. Post Malone's debut album, Stoney, didn't just succeed. It aged like wine. Songs like Congratulations, Go Flex, Too Young stayed on the charts for years. Then came Beer Bongs and Bentleys. This album made Post Malone a global superstar. Rockstar, Psycho, Better Now, #1 hits, streaming records, tour after tour. At this point, Post Malone wasn't just popular. He was overexposed. And the industry was pushing him hard. More albums, more features, more appearances, no breaks. The weight of fame. Behind the scenes, things weren't perfect. Post Malone was touring nonstop, sleeping on buses, performing every night. And fans began noticing changes. He looked tired. He sounded hoarse. His interviews felt darker. He openly talked about depression, loneliness, anxiety. And then there was the alcohol. Post Malone never hid his drinking. But over time, fans started worrying. Videos surfaced of him slurring words, falling on stage, forgetting lyrics. The internet turned concern into jokes. But the truth was more serious. Fame doesn't slow down when you're struggling. It speeds up. Hollywood's bleeding era. In 2019, Post Malone released Hollywood's Bleeding. This album sounded different, darker, more reflective, more painful. Songs talked about fake relationships, fame draining your soul. Yes, it still had hits. Circles, Sunflower, but underneath the success, you could hear the burnout. Post Malone wasn't celebrating fame anymore. He was surviving it. The pandemic and disappearance. Then came 2020. Tour stopped. The world shut down. And for the first time in years, Post Malone slowed down. No constant performances. No nonstop pressure. But isolation made things worse emotionally. He later admitted he was unhappy, drinking more, mentally struggling. Fans noticed he wasn't dropping music like before, and rumors started. He's washed, He lost it. The labels dropped him. None of it was true. What was happening was self-preservation. A different Post Malone. In 2022, Post Malone returned with 12 Karat Toothache. And this album confused people. No massive club bangers. No radio takeover. Instead, it was vulnerable, sad, honest. Songs about feeling empty, addiction, losing yourself. Some fans called it boring, but others realized something important. Post Malone wasn't chasing hits anymore. He was telling the truth. He later revealed he cut back on drinking, focused on his health, stepped away from the spotlight. This wasn't a fall off. It was a reset. The country turned and new life. Then something unexpected happened. Post Malone leaned into his first love, country and rock music. He collaborated with Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, and fans saw a happier version of him. He also became a father. That changed everything. Post Malone openly said having a daughter saved his life. Less partying, less chaos, more purpose. He didn't disappear. He grew up. So, did Post Malone fall off? Here's the truth. Post Malone didn't fall off. He stepped away from the machine. In an era where artists are forced to chase trends, go viral, stay online, Post Malone chose peace, health, longevity. He already proved himself. Diamond records, classic albums, global impact. Now he's doing music on his terms. And that's something the industry doesn't talk about enough. Post Malone's story isn't about losing fame. It's about surviving it. Not everyone is meant to stay at the top forever. Some people choose to live. And maybe that's the real success.